Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'd like to take a look at the Many Mewtwo's of GLC. So, what is GLC? For those of you who don't know, it's a single price only, no Roblox format allowed. It is singleton, except for basic energy, and you're only allowed one type per deck, which is sometimes kind of annoying in GLC, but it's really not super relevant for Mewtwo because there's only ever been Psychic Mewtwo's for GLC. Maybe one day they will print a Dark type Mewtwo. I mean, I don't know why they would, but they might do, I guess, for some weird type swapping set. But yeah, you will have to play a Psychic deck if you want to run Mewtwo in your deck. So, something worth bearing in mind. But the very first Mewtwo's we can look at here, I've kind of like just all grouped them together because they're all from the Black and White era, and they're all a bit rubbish, to be honest. There's really nothing of value to these cards, I would say. Like, Cybolt is, I guess, moderately useful to some degree with Polarisis, but Zenblade is just like, ugh, like Slash also really bad. So yeah, just very bad cards overall, very, very mediocre. There's just so much better options in these, like so many better options. Like even was it like the Mesprit that finds you like three basics? Like you're honestly better off running utility Pokemon, like just extra utility Pokemon, like the Psychic Rotom and stuff, over things like this. So yeah, sadly not a very, very good card, and we can very swiftly move away from these Mewtwo's because they're a bit boring and they're definitely a bit rubbish. Next up, those we do have a far more interesting Mewtwo. Now, I'm still so annoyed with myself. I used to have this Mewtwo, like the holographic one as well from the theme deck, and for some reason I traded it away. I really can't remember why I bothered because I would have loved to have this card, and I think it's really annoying and hard to get a hold of right now. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But either way, side quests aside, very fun card, has two attacks, Psychic and Barrier. Psychic for 2 colors does 20 damage and then 20 more damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So it could be quite nice to swing into a Pokemon with a ton of energy attached to it. And then Barrier for 2 Psychic says during your opponent's next turn, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage, done to Mewtwo. If one of your Pokemon, however, used Barrier during your last turn, this attack can't be used. So you can't do back-to-back barriers, but this is basically one of the only cards, if not one of, yeah, I think this could be the only card actually, that just guarantees you a barrier effect. Like often it's just a coin flip or, you have to meet some weird special requirement. But the fact this is literally guaranteed barrier is good. That is a good effect. Of course, you can't like keep stacking the barriers, so like you won't be able to just reset your Mewtwo or whatever. But at the same time, a very, very strong effect if you just need it in a pinch. Like, your opponent can't gust around it, so your opponent has to essentially attack for nothing, which could be very annoying, and it gives you an extra turn to potentially set up another Pokemon. Now, gust effects are still, like, pretty easy to track down in GLC, of course, Guzma, Boss's Orders, plenty of options, of course, but still, I thought this was at least worth mentioning as an interesting card, and, the Evolutions art style as well is really cool. I know this is, again, going off on a bit of a tangent, but I do hope the 30th anniversary special set does more with this artwork. I would like to see it make a big comeback. Like if we could just get like a base set style artwork for like every single generation, I think that would be really cool actually. But yeah, a bit of a tangent there. But yeah, Barrier and Psychic, very fun card, I would say. So yeah, pretty cool. Next up is we have some Sun and Moon promos. And sadly, neither of these are that impressive, especially Armored Mewtwo, which is kind of a shame. I mean, this kind of looks like a fake card anyway, but this is a real promo, by the way. But yeah, Armored Mewtwo is a bit of a sad story because it's literally the only Armored Mewtwo in GLC, and it's rubbish. So, like, yeah, that's a bit of a letdown. Psychic Raid for 3 Psychic only does 130, and then it can't even attack next turn, which is, yeah, very mediocre. It does also have a very high retreat cost for some reason. I guess the armor is like weighing him down, but it would be nice to see Armored Mewtwo may come back in the TCG at some point. But yeah, sadly, right now, this is your only way to play him, and yeah, he just kind of sucks. So yeah, bit of a shame there. Also got Mewtwo with Pressure, which is, just minus 20 damage, not that impressive. And then Super Cybolt's only doing 103 Psychic, so yeah, not very good card, sadly. Again, I do hope Armored Mewtwo comes back in the future because it's a very cool design, and I would like to see them do something special with it. Like, if it has a Metal Energy attached to it, then like it takes less damage from attacks or something. Like, they could do something interesting with the armor. So yeah, hopefully they do that at some point. Yeah, next up is we've got one that's actually a bit more useful. Now, this is one from Unbroken Bonds. There's also a promo for it as well. Has a very useful ability, Mind Report, which just says when you play it from your hand onto your bench, you may put a supporter card from your discard pile on top of your deck. So quite nice as a way of just retrieving a supporter card. Of course, like Via Seeker and Pal Pad are like kind of better options anyway. But if you don't have Via Seeker and you just really want to run Mewtwo in your deck and maybe also run Pal Pad, but I don't see why you would need Pal Pad as well as this. But like it's a fun option. Like it's definitely not the worst Mewtwo. Like it's just kind of outclassed by much better trainers that do this, but better. So like you don't really need to play this when Via Seeker and Pal Pal exist. But if you happen to have this Mewtwo and not a Via Seeker, like this is a much cheaper card anyway. So like that is something worth bearing in mind. Like you're sieving through someone's bulk pile, they have one of these, they trade it for you for like 10 pence. Like that's significantly better than a Via Seeker. So, like or more affordable, I should say, not better, but more affordable. So always props to those things. Like we always have to look at GLC from the mindset that not everyone is going to be able to have the resources and monies to get all the best cards. So having like cheaper alternative options is really handy. So, that's nice to have at least. Next up is we have a one from Detective Pikachu. And despite being the final boss of that movie, this card sucks. Like Psyjack for Psychic Colors is probably the best attack it has. 30 damage, and you choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks, and that Pokemon can't attack during your opponent's next turn, so they can't use that attack essentially. There is a Swalot, which is a stage 1 from the Sun and Moon era. For a single Psychic Energy, does 30 damage, and it's the same effect. So if you wanted to, you could make like a bit of a troll deck where like you're just trying to deny your opponents their best attacks. Doesn't really work because of course they just set up another attacker, switch into it, and then bonk you. So like, yeah, you don't really get the rewards there. But like you could do something there if you wanted to be a bit annoying, I guess. But I think just running Pokemon with more protective abilities and just better strategies and faster Pokemon is just going to help you out in the long run much easier than this. But sometimes this could come up where it's relevant, like you could stop a Guzzlord from using a Tyrannical Hole or something. So like there is or like Eat Greedly or whatever it is. So like Psyjack does have its uses, but like it's just not a very reliable effect to be using in the game. And then Break Burn does 130 for 3 energy, and you have to discard 2 energy after it, which is rubbish. So yeah, a bit of a shame. The artwork is kind of cool, like it's a weird CGI movie artwork, but yeah, overall not a very good card, sadly. Next up is we have a one from Brilliant Stars. This one very boring. I think this was like a promo in a starter deck or something, and that's why it's a bit bland. But yeah, Life Sucker only heals 20 damage from Mewtwo, not even from your other Pokemon. So yeah, can't really say too much about this card. It's pretty rubbish. Next up is we have probably the best Mewtwo on this list. Psy Pump allows you to attach 2 energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. So it doesn't actually have to be Mewtwo, which is fun to note. But more often than not, I guess it could just be Mewtwo itself. But a nice little bit of energy acceleration in the early game potentially. And then Limit Break for 2 Psychic and a Colorless does 90, but if your opponent has 3 or fewer prize cards remaining, this attack does 90 more damage. So unless you're up against a mill deck, basically, this will always do 180 at some point in the game. Because, like, of course, your opponent could try and play around this, I guess. Like, they could try and deck you out and stall you out and whatnot. But, like, overall, every player in GLC is going to go down to 3 or fewer prize cards at some point. So this will always do 180 for 3, which is pretty efficient. So, yeah, very nice card. Not really much to say about it beyond that. It's just, like, it's a very efficient, good card. It is one of those things where, like, Psy Pump is useful in the late game as well as the early game, but yeah, it's still a very useful card overall, I would say. A lot of nice applications for it, for sure. Next up is we have my personal favorite Mewtwo, and that is the one with Reflective Barrier. For 2 colorless, it does 20 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, if this Pokemon is damaged by an attack, even if it is KO'd, put damage counters on the attacking Pokemon equal to the damage done to this Pokemon. So if your opponent just whacks you for 200 damage, they take 200 damage back. If they knock you for 10 damage, they take 10 damage back, and so on. So it's quite a fun effect to mess around with. Sadly, we don't have double colorless energy. I'm never going to shut up about this, by the way. We don't have double colorless energy or counter energy, I think was removed? Or is it double turbo? There's one of the two that was removed. So yeah, we don't have double colorless anymore, which is a bit of a rip in GLC. Because otherwise you could have made like a fun double colorless toolbox style deck with Pokemon like this. But sadly, you can't do that anymore. So you will have to use things like Xatu to power it up, I guess. I can't remember actually if counter energy is still legal in GLC. It's a good point actually. I wonder if it is. But yeah, Reflective Barrier, 2 colors, 20 damage, interesting effect. Side Slash, again, really boring. For some reason, the card designers are really addicted to printing Mewtwo's that do like 100, 110, 130 damage for 2, 3 energy. Just a bit boring, you know. But still, the effect is really cool on Reflective Barrier. You can also splash out and get a promo rare, which looks fantastic. Very, very cool artwork on that one. And you can also combo it with other fun things like Bursting Balloon. So if you want to stack a bit of extra damage, then that's also an option, which is cool. So yeah, very cool Mewtwo in my opinion. I think the one from Crown Zenith was just much better, but this one definitely wins it for me in terms of being fun. But lastly on this list is we have one from Scarlet and Violet, and this one's just a bit like, oh, what are we doing here? We're all the way back to 100 damage for 3 energy, which is just really boring. It's not even like, oh, if you have more Psychic Pokemon in play, this attack does 10 more damage or something. Like, how come they've not done that yet, actually? How come they haven't done a Mewtwo that does, like, more damage or something for each Psychic Pokemon you have in play? Because I thought Mewtwo's whole shtick was that it was, like, a boss Pokemon and like had command over a lot of others. Or am I just making that up? Yeah, it seems a bit bland, sadly. For some reason, car design is getting a bit more blander these days, but that's a topic for another video. But yeah, this Mewtwo, sadly, just a bit boring. But yeah, thanks for watching. I do a new set review for GLC with each new release, so subscribe if you're interested in being updated. This is a series of stays. Let me know which Pokemon you would like to see. Mew already has been covered before you request it, so be sure to go check out the playlist for Mew. But yeah, there is a list. We're going through them, and a playlist has been made. So Mewtwo was suggested by a commenter. So, have your say down below in the comments. But yeah, if you want to dive into the competitive side, OmniPoke and the format creator Tricky Gym have both done fantastic videos and guides for each type. But yeah, it's been Ember Power. Would you like to add Mewtwo to your GLC deck? And yeah, thank you for watching.